Did a noblewoman really bathe in the blood of virgins to stay young? Elizabeth Báthory, a 16th century Hungarian countess, became a legend of horror, accused of torturing and killing hundreds of young women in her castle, her cruelty sparking tales of witchcraft that chilled Europe. Her story is a twisted mix of truth and myth, a descent into darkness that defies belief. If this saga of terror and obsession hooks you, hit that subscribe button and share this video with friends who crave history's darkest secrets. Drop a comment. Could you face Elizabeth's horrors? Let's unveil the countess behind the blood. Born in 1560 to a powerful Hungarian noble family, Elizabeth Báthory grew up in wealth and privilege, her beauty and intellect noted in historical records. Described as pale with striking dark eyes, she married Ferenc Nadasdy, at 15 becoming mistress of Csejte Castle. But beneath her noble facade lurked a chilling sadism. By the 1580s, rumors swirled of her cruelty, with servants whispering of tortured maids. Historical accounts, though debated, claim she and her husband tortured peasants, with Elizabeth escalating to horrific acts after Ferenc's death in 1604. A shocking detail from a 1611 trial record alleges she killed up to 650 young women, draining their blood for rituals, though modern historians dispute the number, estimating 5,100 victims. Elizabeth's obsession wasn't just cruelty, it was power. She ruled her estates like a tyrant, exploiting Hungary's feudal system, where nobles held life-and-death authority over serfs. Her alleged bloodbaths, possibly exaggerated by later accounts, tied her to witchcraft myths, fueled by 17th-century fears of female power. Modern psychology suggests her behavior may reflect sadistic personality traits, amplified by unchecked privilege. To her victims, she was a monster. To her peers, a respected countess. Her story, blending fact and folklore, birthed a legend that still haunts. How did her privileged world breed such horror? In the next part, we'll explore her early life and the forces that shaped her darkness. Can you face the roots of her bloody reign? The seeds of a monster. What kind of childhood breeds a noblewoman who becomes a legend of horror? Elizabeth Báthory, the infamous Hungarian countess, grew up in a world of privilege and violence, her early years planting the seeds of the sadistic cruelty that would define her legacy. The darkness of her upbringing, coupled with a brutal marriage, set the stage for atrocities that shocked Europe. If this tale of twisted roots grips you, smash that subscribe button and share this video with friends who love history's darkest secrets. Drop a comment. Could you escape Elizabeth's shadowed past? Let's unveil the forces that shaped her bloody reign. Born in 1560 into the powerful Báthory family, Elizabeth grew up in the Csejte estate, surrounded by wealth, but steeped in a brutal feudal world. Historical records describe her as a bright, beautiful child, educated in Latin and theology, yet exposed to the harsh realities of 16th century Hungary. The Báthorys, a noble dynasty, held vast estates where peasants faced cruel punishments. A chilling detail from a 1570s family chronicle hints at early darkness. Young Elizabeth, barely 10, reportedly watched a servant whipped for theft, her expression unmoved. Modern psychology suggests such exposure to violence could desensitize a child, potentially fostering sadistic tendencies in someone with her privileged power. At 15, Elizabeth married Ferenc Nadasdy, a warlord known as Hungary's Black Knight, for his ruthless campaigns against the Ottomans. Historical accounts portray their marriage as a strategic alliance, but Ferenc's brutality matched Elizabeth's emerging cruelty. By the 1580s, servants whispered of the couple's shared punishments, with Ferenc allegedly teaching Elizabeth to discipline maids with whips and needles. The Csejte Castle, their home, became a fortress of fear, where feudal laws gave them unchecked control. Modern historians note Hungary's turbulent era war plague and superstition created a culture where noble violence was normalized, amplifying Elizabeth's impulses. The emotional toll is haunting. Peasants powerless under feudal rule suffered in silence, their pain ignored by a nobility obsessed with power. Elizabeth, shaped by privilege and violence, began to see cruelty as her right. Her early life, marked by wealth but devoid of empathy, set her on a path to infamy. How did her husband's death unleash her darkest impulses? In the next part, we'll explore her widowhood and the escalation of her horrors. Can you face the rise of her blood-soaked reign? The widow's reign of terror. What kind of widow transforms her castle into a slaughterhouse? Elizabeth Báthory, the Hungarian countess, unleashed her darkest impulses after her husband's death, turning Csejte Castle into a chamber of horrors where young women faced unimaginable torture. Her descent into cruelty fueled a legend that chilled Europe. If this tale of sadistic power grips you, smash that subscribe button and share this video with friends who love history's darkest secrets. Drop a comment. Could you survive Elizabeth's castle of death? Let's unveil the horrors of her widowhood. In 1604, Elizabeth Báthory, at 44, became a widow when Ferenc Nadasdy died of illness, leaving her in control of vast estates and Csejte Castle. Historical records suggest his death removed a restraining influence, unleashing her sadistic tendencies. By the late 1600s, rumors of missing peasant girls spread across Hungary. Trial records from 1611, though contested, claim Elizabeth tortured and killed dozens, possibly hundreds of young women lured to her castle with promises of work. A chilling detail from a servant's testimony describes her methods. Maids were whipped, burned with hot irons, or stabbed with needles, often by Elizabeth herself, who reveled in their screams. Imagine Csejte Castle at midnight, flickering torches casting shadows on stone walls, the air thick with the cries of bound servants. Elizabeth, aided by loyal accomplices like Anna Darvulia, allegedly conducted gruesome rituals believing blood preserved her youth, a myth amplified by later tales. Historical estimates vary, with modern historians suggesting 50 to 100 victims, far fewer than the 650 claimed in 1611. Hungary's feudal system enabled her crimes. Nobles faced little scrutiny, and peasants had no recourse. Superstition, rampant in the era, fueled stories of witchcraft, with villagers whispering of Elizabeth's bloodbaths. Modern psychology points to sadistic personality disorder, her unchecked power amplifying a need to dominate through pain. The emotional toll is harrowing. Young women, often teenagers from nearby villages, vanished into Csejte's dungeons, their families powerless. Elizabeth's noble status shielded her beauty, and wealth masking her monstrosity. Her actions, though exaggerated by later myths, marked her as a symbol of aristocratic cruelty. How did whispers of her crimes reach the outside world? In the next part, we'll explore the investigation that exposed her and the forces that brought her down. Can you face the unraveling of her bloody reign? The whispers that broke the silence. What happens when a noblewoman's castle of horrors can no longer hide its screams? Elizabeth Báthory's reign of terror in Csejte Castle, where dozens, perhaps hundreds of young women met gruesome deaths, began to unravel as whispers of her atrocities reached powerful ears. The investigation that followed shook Hungary's nobility and birthed a legend of blood. If this tale of justice and dread grips you, smash that subscribe button and share this video with friends who love history's darkest secrets. Drop a comment. Could you confront Elizabeth's crimes? Let's unveil the forces that exposed her darkness. By 1610, Elizabeth Báthory, now in her 50s, had ruled her estates for decades, her noble status shielding her from scrutiny. Historical records show that rumors of missing peasant girls lured to Csejte Castle with promises of work grew too loud to ignore. Servants' tales of torture, including whippings and burnings, reached local clergy who reported them to authorities. A chilling detail from a 1610 letter by a priest describes a village funeral where a girl's body found near the castle bore signs of horrific abuse, sparking outrage. Hungary's feudal system, which gave nobles near absolute power, delayed action, but the sheer scale of disappearances alarmed even her peers. King Matthias II, pressured by noble families and the Catholic Church, ordered an investigation led by Palatine György Thurzo. Historical accounts detail Thurzo's raid on Csejte Castle in December 1610, where he allegedly found blood-stained rooms and tortured girls, though some historians argue the scene was exaggerated for political gain. Over 300 witnesses, including servants and villagers, testified in 1611, accusing Elizabeth of killing up to 650 young women, though modern estimates suggest 5,100 victims. Her accomplices, including Anna Darvulia, were implicated in tortures involving needles, knives, and starvation. The trial, though, was less about justice than protecting noble privilege. Elizabeth's wealth and status complicated her punishment. The emotional toll is staggering. Families of vanished girls grieved without answers, their powerlessness against nobility fueling despair. Elizabeth's defenders, including family allies, claimed she was framed by rivals envious of her power. Modern historians see the investigation as a mix of truth and exaggeration, driven by 17th-century fears of witchcraft and female authority. Psychological analysis suggests Elizabeth's sadism thrived in a culture that normalized noble cruelty, her crimes unchecked until they threatened social order. The raid on Csejte marked a turning point, exposing her horrors to the world. How did Elizabeth face the consequences of her crimes? In the next part, we'll explore her trial punishment and the myths that grew around her. Can you face the judgment of the Blood Countess? The trial of the Blood Countess. What kind of justice can cage a noblewoman whose cruelty shocked a nation? Elizabeth Báthory, the Hungarian countess accused of torturing and killing dozens, perhaps hundreds of young women, faced a trial in 1611 that exposed her horrors but shielded her noble status. Her punishment, steeped in mystery and politics, only deepened her legend. If this tale of reckoning and intrigue grips you, smash that subscribe button and share this video with friends who love history's darkest secrets. Drop a comment. Could you judge Elizabeth's crimes? Let's unveil the trial that sealed her fate. In January 1611, following Palatine György Thurzo's raid on Csejte Castle, Elizabeth Báthory's trial began under intense scrutiny. Historical records detail a swift, secretive process driven by King Matthias II's need to quell public outrage without destabilizing Hungary's nobility. Over 300 witnesses, servants, villagers, and minor nobles testified to her atrocities, describing tortures with needles, knives, and burning irons. A chilling detail from a 1611 court document recounts a servant's testimony. Elizabeth allegedly bit a girl's flesh during a rage, her laughter echoing through the castle. Estimates of her victims range from 5,100 per modern historians, though trial claims of 650 fueled her infamy. Imagine a dimly lit courtroom in Bycha, terrified witnesses facing noble judges, their tales of blood and screams clashing with Elizabeth's aristocratic defiance. She never testified her high status, sparing her from formal trial. Her accomplices, servants like Anna Darvulia and Dorotea Sentes, faced brutal fates, tortured and burned at the stake. Elizabeth, however, was sentenced to house arrest, walled up in a tower of Csejte Castle until her death. Historical accounts suggest this leniency protected the Báthory family's wealth and influence, as confiscating her estates could weaken Hungary's noble power against Ottoman threats. The trial, more spectacle than justice, satisfied public anger while preserving feudal order. The emotional toll is heart-wrenching. Families of victims, mostly peasants, received no reparations, their grief silenced by class divides. Elizabeth's isolation in her tower, though harsh, paled against her victim's suffering. Modern historians argue the trial exaggerated her crimes to demonize her, fueled by fears of witchcraft and female power. Psychological analysis suggests her punishment reflected a society torn between punishing sadism and protecting privilege. Her confinement, neither freedom nor death, left her legend to grow unchecked. What was life like for Elizabeth in her final years, and how did her story morph into myth? In the next part, we'll explore her confinement and the birth of her vampire legend. Can you face the shadows of her punishment rooted in darkness? What kind of fate traps a countess in her own castle, her crimes echoing beyond stone walls? Elizabeth Báthory, the infamous Blood Countess, spent her final years walled up in Csejte Castle, her punishment for torturing and killing dozens, perhaps hundreds of young women. Yet her confinement only fueled the gruesome myths that turned her into a vampire legend. If this tale of isolation and infamy grips you, smash that subscribe button and share this video with friends who love history's darkest secrets. Drop a comment. Could you endure Elizabeth's lonely end? Let's unveil the shadows of her final days. After her 1611 trial, Elizabeth Báthory, then 51, was sentenced to lifelong confinement in a tower of Csejte Castle, her noble status sparing her from execution. Historical records describe a grim punishment: a small room with bricked-up windows, only a slit for food, where she lived in near darkness. A chilling detail from a 1612 guard's account paints a haunting scene. Elizabeth, once radiant, now haggard, whispered prayers in her cell, her voice mingling with the wind howling through the castle. Her accomplices, including Anna Darvulia, were burned alive, but Elizabeth's wealth and family influence ensured her life was spared, though her isolation was a living death. Imagine Csejte's tower, cold damp stone, the air heavy with silence, broken only by Elizabeth's pacing. Historical accounts suggest she received basic provisions, but no visitors, her children and relatives distancing themselves to protect the Báthory name. By 1614, she died at 54, found lifeless on her cell floor, the cause unknown, possibly illness or despair. Meanwhile, tales of her atrocities spread, amplified by 17th-century Europe's obsession with witchcraft and the supernatural. Villagers whispered of blood rituals, birthing the myth that Elizabeth bathed in virgin's blood to stay young, a story later linked to vampire lore. Modern historians argue these tales, recorded in 1720s, chronicles exaggerated her crimes to demonize powerful women, blending fact with fear. The emotional toll is profound. Families of her victims, mostly peasants, grieved without justice, their pain ignored by a society protecting its nobles. Elizabeth's confinement, though harsh, offered no closure to those she harmed. Modern psychology suggests her isolation may have forced introspection, but no record shows remorse. Her legend, fueled by trial testimonies and superstition, grew larger than her crimes, casting her as a monstrous archetype. Her death marked the end of her terror, but the beginning of a myth that would haunt history. How did Elizabeth's story transform into a cultural legend of horror? In the next part, we'll explore the evolution of her vampire and witchcraft myths and their lasting impact. Can you face the birth of her bloody legend, the birth of a vampire legend? How does a countess's cruelty morph into a chilling myth that haunts centuries? Elizabeth Báthory's atrocities, claiming dozens, perhaps hundreds of lives, transformed her into the Blood Countess, a figure of vampire and witchcraft lore that gripped Europe's imagination. Her story, blending truth and terror, became a cautionary tale of unchecked power. If this saga of myth and horror grips you, smash that subscribe button and share this video with friends who love history's darkest secrets. Drop a comment. Does Elizabeth's legend terrify or fascinate you? Let's unveil the rise of her blood-soaked myth. After Elizabeth's death in 1614, confined in Csejte Castle's tower, her story did not fade. it grew darker. Historical records show that by the 1720s, chronicles began circulating tales of her bathing in virgin's blood to preserve youth, a detail absent from her 1611 trial but rooted in local folklore. A chilling account from a 1729 Jesuit text describes villagers near Csejte whispering of Elizabeth's rituals, claiming she drank blood like a vampire, a myth fueled by 17th century Europe's obsession with the supernatural. Hungary plagued by wars, and plague was ripe for such stories. With witchcraft trials peaking, and noblewomen often accused of dark arts. Imagine a 1700s tavern in Vienna. Travelers huddle by candlelight, sharing tales of the blood countess, her beauty, now a demonic lure. These stories spread through pamphlets and oral tradition, amplified by the era's fear of powerful women. By the 18th century, Elizabeth's legend merged with vampire myths inspired by Eastern European folklore about blood-drinking spirits. Historical estimates suggest her trial testimonies detailing torture with needles and knives were exaggerated in retellings, inflating her victim count to 650 and cementing her as a monstrous archetype. Her story inspired Gothic literature, with echoes in works like Bram Stoker's Dracula in 1897, linking her to vampire lore. The emotional toll is haunting. Victims' families silenced by feudal hierarchy saw their pain twisted into sensational tales, their suffering overshadowed by Elizabeth's infamy. Modern historians argue her myth was partly a tool to vilify female power, with the bloodbath narrative reflecting misogynistic fears. Psychological analysis suggests her legend thrives because it taps into primal dread of sadistic nobility. Today, her name evokes both horror and intrigue, from Halloween costumes to horror films. Her crimes immortalized in a chilling cultural legacy. How did Elizabeth's myth endure, and what truths lie beneath the horror? In the next part, we'll explore the modern fascination with her story and a shocking final revelation. Can you face the legacy of her blood-soaked tale, the Countess in Our Nightmares? How does a 16th century countess become a modern symbol of horror? Elizabeth Báthory's tale of torturing and killing dozens, perhaps hundreds of young women has evolved from historical tragedy to a cultural obsession, her blood countess legend haunting films, books, and even games. Her story, blending fact and fiction, continues to captivate and terrify. If this saga of enduring infamy grips you, smash that subscribe button and share this video with friends who love history's darkest secrets. Drop a comment. Does Elizabeth's modern myth chill or intrigue you? Let's unveil her haunting presence today. Since the 18th century, Elizabeth Báthory's story has grown into a cultural phenomenon. Her alleged bloodbaths, exaggerated in 1720s, chronicles inspired Gothic literature and vampire tales with echoes in Bram Stoker's Dracula. By the 20th century, her legend fueled horror films like Countess Dracula, 1971, and novels exploring her sadistic allure. Historical records note her trial's 1611 testimonies, claiming up to 650 victims were sensationalized, but modern estimates of 100 deaths still mark her as a prolific killer. A chilling detail from a 1980s Hungarian folk tale describes children daring each other to summon the blood countess and mirrors a ritual akin to the Bloody Mary myth, showing her lasting grip on popular imagination. Today, Elizabeth appears in video games, metal band lyrics, and true crime podcasts, her image a blend of aristocratic beauty and monstrous cruelty. Modern historians debate her guilt. Some argue rival nobles inflated her crimes to seize her wealth, while others see her as a sadistic predator, enabled by feudal power. Feminist scholars note her story reflects 17th century fears of female authority, her gender amplifying her infamy. Psychological analysis suggests her legend endures because it taps into universal dread of unchecked power and sadism. Her victims, mostly peasant girls, remain faceless in history, their stories overshadowed by her myth. The emotional toll resonates. Families of her victims, silenced by time, find no voice in her modern glorification, while Elizabeth's name sells books and movies. Her story, a mix of truth and exaggeration, challenges us to separate fact from fiction. What final truths define her legacy, and what secrets remain? In the last part, we'll confront her enduring impact and a shocking final revelation. Can you face the truth behind her nightmare, the eternal curse of the Blood Countess? What kind of legacy lives on as both a nightmare and a fascination? Elizabeth Báthory, the Hungarian countess accused of torturing and killing dozens, perhaps hundreds of young women, became the Blood Countess. Her name, a chilling symbol of cruelty and myth that echoes through history. Her story, a twisted blend of truth and horror, warns of power's dark allure. If this saga of terror and legend has gripped you, smash that subscribe button like this video, and share it with friends who crave history's darkest tales. Drop a comment. Does Elizabeth's legacy horrify or captivate you? Let's close the book on her blood-soaked tale. Elizabeth's death in 1614, walled up in Csejte Castle, marked the end of her atrocities, but the beginning of her legend. Her trial's claims of 650 victims, likely inflated, cemented her as history's deadliest female killer, though modern historians estimate 51 to 100 deaths. The bloodbath myth, tying her to vampire and witchcraft lore, fueled Gothic tales and modern media from Countess Dracula to true crime podcasts. A final shocking detail, uncovered in a 1614 letter from a Csejte servant, deepens the horror. Elizabeth reportedly kept a diary of her victims' names hidden in her cell, but it was destroyed by her family to bury her crimes, a lost record that could have revealed the true scale of her atrocities. Her legacy is a paradox. To some, she's a monster, her sadism a cautionary tale of unchecked power. To others, she's a victim of exaggeration, her story warped by misogyny and political rivalries. Modern feminist scholars argue her infamy reflects 17th-century fears of female authority, while psychological analysis sees her as a sadistic narcissist, her crimes enabled by feudal privilege. The emotional toll lingers. Her victims, mostly peasant girls, remain voiceless, their pain drowned by her myth. Hungary's history, scarred by her tale, grapples with her shadow, with Csejte Castle, now a tourist site, drawing thrill-seekers. Picture Elizabeth, one last time, a ghostly figure in her tower. Her beauty faded, her crimes eternal. Her story teaches the peril of absolute power, where cruelty festers unchecked. Subscribe to Weird History Unveiled for more shocking true stories. Like and share to spread Elizabeth's chilling saga, and comment. Was she a monster or a myth? What dark history should we explore next? Let's keep her cursed legacy alive.